Happy new month. Welcome to the first day of the 8th month in 2022. The year is gradually winding down now. Welcome to Business Morning, live on Channels Television. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's do business. Starting from Nigeria, the country's foreign exchange reserve has recorded its first decline in 8 weeks, as it fell by $169.21 million week on week to close the month at $39.22 billion as at the 28th of July. Analysts attribute this latest decline in the country's dollar buffer, which comes amid a rebound in crude oil prices, to the central bank's increased intervention in the foreign exchange market in a bid to tackle the liquidity challenge from which has led to the Naira's weakening at both the official and parallel market. Well, this also comes as the country faces tight foreign currency liquidity in an inability to attract foreign exchange through export value, diaspora remittances and investments, despite a number of policies and programs by the CBN. Before now, Nigeria's external reserve depreciated 3.37% in the first 6 months of the year to $39.16 billion as at the 30th of June. That's against $40.52 billion, which it closed in 2021. And in the oil space now, our prices dropped today as weak manufacturing data from China and Japan for July weighed on the outlook for demand, while investors brace for this week's meeting of officials from OPEC and other top producers on the supply adjustment. That's supposed to hold on Wednesday. Brent crude futures were down 82 cents to $103.15 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was $97.44 a barrel after it lost $1.18. Fresh COVID-19 lockdown snuffed off a brief recovery seen in June for factory activity in China, the world's largest crude oil exporter. And at the market, manufacturing purchasing managers index PMI eased to 50.4 in July from 51.7 in the previous month. That's well below analyst expectations, according to data. However, Japan manufacturing activity expanded at its weakest rate in 10 months in July. Well, back in Nigeria, the Nigeria Startup Bill is in the news. It's gone through the National Assembly, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, awaiting the government's assent, the president's assent, beg your pardon. So what should be happening now, and what does it possess? What potentials does it possess? We have joining us in the studio to have this conversation, a member, communications and strategy team at the Nigerian Startup Bill Secretariat, Omoru Edogiawere, joining us in the studio for that conversation. That's just in a minute. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, on Wednesday, the Nigeria Startup Bill was passed the third reading at the lower house, as the House of Representatives. The news comes exactly a week after the bill was passed by the Senate and passed to the House of Representatives. With the passing of the third reading at the House of Reps, the bill has now completed its round at the National Assembly. A concurrent has been reached on the bill, and all that's left for the bill now is to become law, is the president's assent. So what should we be doing now? What should the startup community be doing now? As I said earlier, we have Omoru joining us in the studio here. Good morning, Omoru. Good to have you. Happy new month.
Happy new month. Good to be here again.
Good to have you. So should I say congratulations? I know you've been on this and you're excited about it.
Yes, very excited, very excited. This is a landmark moment and landmark provision for startups. We couldn't be more excited. You know, the last time I was here, I said some jurisdictions have come on and Nigeria is late to the party. But good thing, we've crossed that bridge. We're in and fully geared up to get going.
Yeah, well, I remember we celebrated the PIA like this, but the implementation, so, you know, celebrating the passage while awaiting the president's assent is one thing, but the expected impact and the real impact is another.
Is another thing, yes. Well, you see, the beautiful thing about the startup bill, soon to become an act, it's an executive bill, so we don't envisage any back and forth from the executive arm. But what's even important is that this is the first time stakeholders will actively work with the regulators to create a law that will regulate them. So this is not like the practice where where you know, laws are more or less foisted on you and you have to work with them. But the stakeholders, the industry players were actively part of the process, from the drafting to the consultations to the defense at the National Assembly. So its implementation more or less will be a lot smoother, because even, you know, the main body that is established by the Act is the National Council on Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And in that council, it will interest you to know that industry players, private sector industry players, are going to be a part of it, right? So it's not going to be us against them. It's going to be together we make something work. You know, so it's
so you have a lot of faith in the implementation of this.
Definitely,
since it's coming from within. But what are you guys doing now while awaiting the president's assent?
Well, what's even important while we await President assent is to push for state adoption. It's important that the startups live in the states. The states are the first interface, right? And so we're pushing to have all the states in Nigeria latch on, come on board. Some states have even taken the lead. Lagos State, Kaduna State, Yobe, Edo State have, you know, taken the lead to adopt the startup bill. In fact, Lagos State has even, through the Lagos State Innovation and Research Council, have been funding about 60 startups between $9,000 to $12,000 grants to get them going. So state adoption is very important because, you see, while the Act will provide for certain incentives at the federal level for startups, at the state level, there are also things that the states could do to enable these startups thrive.
Help me to paint the picture, make it more realistic. When you talk about the states domesticating it and
adopting.
All of that, adopting it. Mm-hmm. Okay, what does it mean, really? You mentioned Lagos State and Kano State. So does it mean that the state's executive or the lawmakers sit down with startups and discuss, or what exactly does it mean?
So the thing is, the states could decide to, I know Kaduna, for instance, has in the works a startup law of Kaduna State that is borrowing a leaf from the startup bill, right? Like I said, some of the key things that startups would get also come from the state level. You know, things, for instance, like payee are not for employees of startup companies. You know, you could have certain incentives from that. You could have business premises permits, business premises taxes waived or reduced, you know, from the state. You could also have the states create free enterprise zones for startups, you know. So they could come with laws. They could also have through executive orders or executive implementations to look at the bill and decide to pick it. But what's important is that the states adopt the bill in either a form of a law or an executive order and contextualize its benefit for the startups in their states. And it's also, you know, one way of also creating a competitive edge. So startups are innovative, they are fast, and they're also restless. They want the best place where they will get the best respite to give the best result and produce the best product.
I guess another thing that will also attract them will be the raw materials, the resources available.
Yes, for those that are in advanced development, you know, advanced agricultural development, for instance, you know, a state that provides access to some mechanized products, or that gives you land, or that gives you a free hand to do certain things. You know, we must not forget that one of the most important things that startups face are regulatory bottlenecks. And the startup bill wants to remove these bottlenecks so that they can thrive. The states need to adopt the startup bill so that this removal will be holistic across the entire country.
I guess it's another way that the country can look forward to when we talk about non-oil exports.
Oh, yes.
You know, reducing the pressure on the naira, which is like top on the list of conversation now. But let's look at some of those, some parts. For instance, according to the bill, for a company to be named startup, it must be a registered limited liability company that has been in existence for not more than 10 years from the date of incorporation.
Yes.
Right. Is this easy for a startup to meet up with?
Oh, yes. So not more than, which means from 1 year, 0 day, to 10 years. You must be young. And the law knows that in the formative years, just like a child, you're crawling, you're trying to stand, sometimes you falter, the same way business is run, right? And so within the first 10 years of your business, what the Startup Act is going to provide is some respite so that, the bones can get stronger, you can stand firm, and you can run, and you can walk on your own. So it's easy. Incorporation has been simplified. And another thing is that the Startup Bill is going to have, the Startup Act is going to enable a startup portal. So where startups, label startup, can access all the regulatory support they need. Right now, company registration has been simplified by the Corporate Affairs Commission. We must give them that credit. Yes, there's still some bottlenecks, but it's simplified.
Yeah, because I wanted to say, I know someone who is still,
yes.
He's gone through the process, but I've been getting to the final end. There's still some...
Yes, there's still some bottlenecks, but we're not where we used to be.
Obviously.
Right?
Because now you can do it virtually.
You can do it virtually. In fact, since last year, hard copy certificates are no longer issued by the Corporate Affairs Commission. You file your registrations, everything is submitted online. You receive, you download your company incorporation documents online. There has been an integration to have your tax identification numbers inside your certificates. At the same time you're applying, you're getting that done. So what the Startup Portal is going to do is to make this wider. Issues like incorporation, issues like regulatory registrations. For fintech startups, for instance, you have SEC regulations, you have CBN regulations. Let's bring everything into one place where they can access. And even after accessing, post-registration formalities, post-registration support, troubleshooting, you have an access. You don't need to walk into a physical office. You log in your complaint, you dialogue with the relevant government agency, and they provide you the solution to your problem on the go.
So, one of the reasons why I brought up that 10 years was we have a lot, for instance, even now that ASU has been on strike, we did a little bit of background report on what the students have been doing. And you see a lot of them branching out into different areas. I know ICT is up on that list. Now, I'm looking at how to make it easier for this group of people who do not really have that backbone or background, you understand, to easily... I mean, we know that in the Western world, people do not have to finish school. We've heard of the people who have started great companies, without certificates. So can this help this group of people? If we're going to help them in education, can we help them in this area?
Well, luckily, to register a company in Nigeria, you don't need any educational qualification. You just need to have a means of identification. So that simplifies the process. The cost of registration in Nigeria is not also prohibitive. It's reasonable. There must be a benchmark of requirements. It cannot be free-falling, right? But what's important is that as soon as they're able to access these basic registrations, a limited liability company, it's pretty straightforward. There are no exorbitant share capital procedures or requirements, right? So the benchmark is fine for registration. And the reason for that is, one of the things that becoming a labeled startup would do is that it's also going to put you in a better position to access funding. Government will fund you. There's a grant, startup grant that is interest-free, that's warehoused by the Sovereign Investment Fund, right, that they can access. But even beyond that, venture capitalists can also fund startups, because a lot of startups are funded by venture capital. There are people who make it their business to fund viable startups, right? So Once you come within the labeling, which is free, you're able to be in a position where you are sought after. Don't forget that Nigeria is also in the process of fully implementing the AFTA agreement, which makes Africa a single market. And so business, Africa is ready for business. Nigeria has to also play its role as the leader in the African entrepreneurial ecosystem. You have 200 million people, and that's data, right? So coming under an umbrella that enables you become attractive to funding. Because as a labeled startup, definitely venture capitalists will look for you. The government will also fund you. You will get certain incentives, right? You know, right now, beyond even state adoption, it's important that all the stakeholders, both the stakeholders, the founders, the funders, the government, you know, private sector come together. And this is a collaborative law. It's an act that was created by everyone who's going to be eating from the meal.
Yeah, I know that one of the high points of this is that it brings a platform for conversation and meeting between the regulators and the startups and all of that. Now, you of course, you've talked about states adoption, but who's going to be running it in those states? You were part of the secretariat. You are in the Nigerian Startup Bill Secretariat. Do you have like offices in every state where anyone who is interested, or do I just go online? Yes, I want to be part of it. I want to access the portal when it's available and stuff.
So as soon as the bill becomes an act, one of the important things that will be done would be the establishment of the National Council on Digital Entrepreneurship and Innovation that will now create the secretariat flowing from the law. And once the secretariat is set up, certain modalities will now be put in place. One of the most important things will be that the portal will be created where startups can now access and start the process once they meet the labeling documentary requirement. Like I said, it's free to be labeled. Once those are met. Now, at the state level, the states will also try, like we said, adopt, provide an environment just flowing from the example that the federal government has made, flowing from the example provided by the Act. They are able to also create things like this. Like I said, certain states are already leading the way. Lagos State has its Research and Innovation Council. Whether they will decide to convert that to be in sync with the Act but they have clearly said that they intend to adopt it and flow with the example provided by the Act. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
There's still a lot to be done. The implementation phase is just as intense as the phase that's, we're just coming off.
Yeah, well, at least we'll celebrate our wins.
Our wins, definitely.
I don't want to call it little wins.
This is a big win. It's a big win for startups in Nigeria.
Exactly. That's why I didn't call it little wins. It's
it's a big win.
It's a big win. All right, thank you so much. We do really look forward to, the implementation of it and, of course, feeling the impact in the economy. I think that's at the bottom of it, because we have enough laws, we have enough rules in the country.
SMEs are the backbone of our economy. Startups are going to be the next phase. We are trying to move from we're trying to move from an oil economy, into a non-oil economy, and these are one of the first apostles of that movement. And it's important that they get the support that they need to be able to move our economy forward. Tunisia, for instance, started the Startup Act. They enacted the Startup Act. They provided, a lot of support for startups, and the turnover has been immense. Their economy has improved. The startups that have been supported have done a lot. And even with the little support that exists today, look at what our startups are even doing.
All right, Maury, I know you're really passionate about this, but when we get the president's assent, we'll be back.
Yes,
and then when we get to the different stages of the state's adoption, we'll be back. So
thank you.
We do wish you the best. Maury Edogioware, member communications and strategy team at the Nigerian Startup Bill Secretariat, and we do wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
As you go about preaching this gospel. We'll take a break now. When we come back from that break, Business and governance, the perspective of GTEX Global. That's will be our conversation. To join us again, John Mekwa. Oh no, this is Business Morning on Channels Television. Welcome back to watching Business Morning on Channels Television. The political scene in Nigeria is heating up as the country prepares for the 2023 general elections. Here on Business Morning, we've been discussing global headwinds and as it affects different countries and different sectors. Well, ask the aviation sector or even manufacturers, and they will tell you how important what's going on in the political scene and what's happening with them is going on. Well, that's what Dr. Stephen Akintayo, the Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of GTEX Global, has been looking at, and he's here to discuss that. Good to see you, Dr. Akintayo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back again.
Yeah, good to have you again. Well, a lot of things. The political scene is very busy. The real sector is not smiling at all because of not friendly economic parameters. From your perspective, business owners and the issue of governance, what's the connection?
Very good question. I mean, for me, you can't separate business from governance. If you see countries that have done well, they've mastered this art. I'm currently in Dubai and Dubai office. What you see, I just left a government agency office to register a new apartment here. And in just 2 minutes, while sitting waiting for my turn, somebody walked up to me and said, "Do you want water?" By the time I'm done, I literally have to rate that agency whether they did well or not. Their office run like a bank and it's a government agency. And so, but those are countries that understand that you have to run governance like a business. People have to be able to rate how well you've treated them. Your premises of delivering services has to be productive. There has to be profit and loss. We haven't seen that in Nigeria, and that's why we're not doing well. And as you can see, everybody is just focusing on politics, and we forget business. We have huge unemployment. Businesses are dying every day. A lot of companies are leaving the continent, not just in Nigeria alone. And we're not even bothered. We're just concerned about who becomes the next president or the next governor. And we fail to realize that if we don't take care of our business, we'll have nothing to govern after being elected.
Would you now say that entrepreneurs should become political leaders?
I will say that we need to get more entrepreneurs into the political system in Nigeria, not necessarily elective position. What you see, I mean, again, I'm sorry I'm having to mention countries because we operate in 4 continents and I've seen the best of the best. I've seen where things work. And what you see there is that there are certain positions left to politicians, there are certain positions left to people who are entrepreneurs, who are technocrats. When you look at the current government of Nigeria, one of the biggest mistakes that was made was that you did not have enough non-partisan guys brought into the ministerial position and key positions. So at the end of the day, you brought in career politicians and everything is messed up as well. So what you want to see is that you want to get professionals, you want to get entrepreneurs, engage in policy formation, engage in execution, okay, of the promises you made to the electorate. We're not seeing much of that. Not all of us have to go into, elective position or campaign to be president or governor. A lot of entrepreneurs are not even inclined to do that because the concept and the mindset of being an entrepreneur is different from that of a politician. Because in politics, about interest, you have to try and take care of everybody's interest. Now, business is a lot more straight, jacketed concept than in politics. So you want to balance the two. But what we've seen is that entrepreneurs have been pushed aside, technocrats have been pushed aside, and then everybody's becoming career politicians, and we keep messing the thing up every day.
So from your perspective, what areas do you think should be reserved for entrepreneurs?
From DGs, from ministers. I think once you get elected, leave politics aside, find certain roles for politicians. In fact, you can tell them and say, okay, you guys got me elected. Can you give me somebody with this criteria, right? Who is a technocrat or who is an entrepreneur to fill in your own slot of ministerial position, right? Not that you yourself that probably, are chieftain, right, of the party in your particular location has to be the one taking that particular because what the I will say that when you look at the fact that government is divided into three: judiciary, legislator, and the other part of governance is more of execution. And if you're really serious about wanting to execute, then bring professionals who understand how the business works and let them help you move the nation from where it is to where it needs to be.
And so when you look at the Nigerian situation now, what would you say is lacking in leadership?
Patriotism is lacking. Professionalism is lacking. You have a system right now where mediocrity is the order of the day, and mediocrity is celebrated. A lot of times, some of us, when we even travel out of Nigeria for a month or two, we miss the mediocrity of Nigeria, literally, right? Because you get to other climes where things have to be done properly. There is a process. Nobody can cut short that process. I'll never forget many years ago, I overstayed here in Dubai. I wasn't a resident then. And I think it was a day or so overstay. It was literally, 12 a.m. and then my flight was, I think, 2 a.m. So I remember looking at the immigration official and saying to him, what can you do? The normal thing, I beg now, help your boy. The guy looked at me with so much anger and said, look, you are looking, it's a system. You have system. Like there's nothing I can do. It's automated. Even if it's 2 hours that you overstay, you have to just pay the money and move on. It's automated, right? So we have a situation whereby our processes are not as automated as they should be. So you have that man, no man playing out. And until we can remove all that and things just run the proper way it should run, we will continue this cycle. And I think Nigerians need to begin to ask questions. I think entrepreneurs like myself, in fact, because I've become very active on social media about this politics matter, people think I want to contest. I'm not contesting election. I'm not interested. But entrepreneurs have to get serious about the politics. How is run? Who is running it? The policies that are being made. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones that suffer. We are the ones struggling to pay salaries. We are the ones having to downsize when we allow people who are not sound run our affairs. I will never forget a particular meeting we went for. And the minister of communication, I went with a German friend. And when he was done speaking, my German friend said, it's only in your country that you professionals sit down and listen to the illiterates in your field talk to you. Because the minister was not even into communication. He was an old lawyer who has no, you will know he doesn't know how the sector works. But we, the professionals, sat there and we're listening to him to tell us how to run our field. And that's the real dilemma we find ourselves in this country. I hope it change. I hope we begin to talk. All of us begin to speak out and make sure we vote as well. And make sure that as entrepreneurs, we lobby that the right things are done. Not because we want to take positions or we're interested in political position, but so that the right people, there are a lot of, entrepreneurs and technocrats who are ready to serve this nation in one capacity or the other, get them in. But we need to stop this nonsense.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think interesting point you made there about professionals lobbying to get the right people in. and also participating in the electoral process. But let's talk a little bit about your business now. Your company, of course, is making waves. As you said, you are there in Dubai for expansion. Tell us more about this expansion and growth and some of the projects that you're working on at GText.
Thank you very much. For me, the Nigerian challenge has helped us to, expand internationally. I mean, now we're in US, we're UK, we're here in Dubai, and we're growing, internationally. And again, it's just what entrepreneurship is about. It's about solving problems. The economic challenges back at home has forced us to think of creative ways, think of other markets, think of how to expand to other regions. We're launching our first 54-acre estate in Dallas, Texas. Has single family home, multiple family homes, and commercial as well. For me, it's that, and I'm not the only one. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs begin to say, hey, the challenges of Nigeria, we've done well in Nigeria, can we begin to expand outside Nigeria? Because in case this whole Nigeria project doesn't work, are we able to, stand strong internationally so that we can sustain whatever it is that we've built back at home? And so for me, I'm excited about the expansion and what GText is able to do. We've been able to also, even here in UAE, help a lot of people secure their investment, because we're currently at the largest, Nigerian-owned brokerage firm here in Dubai. And it's been amazing, the growth, US, UK, and other markets. And we're opening other markets very soon. So, well, we're thriving.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like even though you're expanding outside Nigeria, you're serving more of Nigerians even outside Nigeria.
So for us, what we've done is to do both, right? So we're able to serve Nigerians outside Nigeria. Because if you look at, for example, in the US market, a lot of Africans, not just Nigerians, are not able to own properties, right? So you come in and then the rules are big, your credit score, and so on and so forth. And so we are able to say, hey, we understand the pain point. We understand, for example, you can have a Nigerian relocate, or a Ghanaian, or a Cameroonian, or Kenyan relocate from Kenya to the US, right? He cannot move his credit rating, right? His, all his transaction, and then get some level of entry into the US market. Now, these are some of the areas we're able to then come in, because we understand that we're coming from that part of the world. But for us is that we're not just sticking to Nigerians. We just finished our largest conference in the US, the Global World Festival. A good number of the people in the room are not even Nigerians. We have African Americans, we have, even other nationalities being part of that event as well. So we're trying to do both. Africans are able to connect with us because they already know us from when we started in Africa, but non-African as well are doing business with us.
All right, just before we let you go, because we're like out of time, there's also big talk with DSA. That's coming on to a new season. You have a central theme. What's going on with that?
So exactly. So it's a political TV show. Hopefully it will be airing on channels as well in the next few weeks, and other TV stations. And so what we did was for me to be in the middle as an entrepreneur, and then host government officials, and then we have Nigerian youths, as audience. And, we then face it out, people challenging their, electoral officials to say, why are you to deliver on power, on rail, on transportation, on several sectors. And then you have young people also getting to understand how governance work, how to challenge their leaders. And we've done season 1, it will start airing. We'll start recording season 2 very soon. And for me, I want to encourage more entrepreneurs to do this. I know we fear that politicians will come after our business, but we won't have any business in the first place if we all don't, raise the bar and use our own status to be able to call our friends in governance, our friends in politics, and say, hey, come and tell the people how far you've gone. Come and tell the people what you're doing. Listen to their pains, and how do we together create a better society for our nation. We don't have any other home, no matter what, no matter the expansion outside Nigeria, I'm still Nigerian. Even my accent will fail me
Even your
once I
assets will
open
give
my
you
mouth.
away. All right, Dr. Akintaya, thank you so much. And we do wish you the best in your expansion. And of course, that program will be really interesting, especially if you can get the politicians, to face the youth. I think you get a lot of
Yes.
viewership. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And we wish you a safe trip back home. I know you always come
Thank
back
you.
home. Dr. Stephen
Thank
Akintaya is
you.
the Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of GText Global. Well, let's move to the markets now. Normally on Mondays, we look at FX transactions for the previous week. In the FX spot and derivatives market, the total turnover for the week ended July 29, 2022 was 538.30 million, and that's a decrease of almost 50% from 941.28 million reported for the week ended July 2022. The week-on-week decrease in total turnover was driven by 44.56% and 30.12% decrease in FX sports and FX derivative turnover. I think we have Tolulope Shebanjo now. Tolulope Shebanjo is a fixed income dealer with Access Bank to give us an overview of the transaction at the FX market last week. Hi, Tolu. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have
The
you.
FX market last week, particularly in the INA market, we saw total turnover for the week at about $453 million. It closed on Friday at $59 million. We also saw the rate depreciate from 427 opening the week to close the week at $429 to the naira in the FX market. We continue to see lack of supply while demand keeps increasing, both in the official market as well as in the parallel market.
We saw at the beginning of the program, we talked about the FX reserve for Nigeria, the Forex reserve declining, and because of, I think, aggressive intervention by the CBN. Is there a correlationship between the drop in the Forex reserve and, this negative movement in the FX market?
Of course, we've seen the CBN continue to intervene in the market, particularly in the SME and invisibles market. They continue to intervene as well as in the investors exporters window. The CBN has been the major supplier at that window. So that also comes from the reserve. So the decline in reserve can also be directly linked to the various interventions by the central bank.
Yeah, but we do hope we'll get to a point where the non-oil export, at least apart from the oil exports, will boost that. But there was an auction on Wednesday. Could you give us an overview of how the auction went on Wednesday at the fixed income market? Okay, looks like we don't have Tolulope. It should have been nice to know that, but we'll do that, sometime during the week. For now, let's take a break. When we come back from that break, we'll head to London. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. We're heading to our London studio now where Juliana is standing by. Juliana, good morning. Politics is in the air over there in the UK, and we see that one of the hopefuls, Rishi Sunak, has said that he will cut basic rate of income tax from 20% to 16% by the end of next parliament if he becomes prime minister. And I'm just wondering, where is that magic wand going to come from? I thought the president's administration has already exhausted all ways to buffer, some of the hardship in this year of the squeeze.
Good morning, Annie. Well, it's an interesting question, and certainly one only whoever is going to be Boris Johnson's successor can answer. But there is lots of speculation about why the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, has decided to make the announcement. And I think the answer simply is he is massively trailing behind his fellow contestant, Liz Truss, who is currently the Foreign Secretary. They are both vying to be the next Conservative Party leader, and in effect become the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Now, ballots open today, so for the 170,000 odd Conservative Party members, not those who sit as MPs, but those who are members of the party, they will receive their ballots, and they have until September 2nd to vote for their preferred candidate. And there are several reasons why Rishi Sunak is trailing behind Liz Truss. One of them, the most glaringly obvious, is the fact that lots of senior party members are really not happy with how it ended with Boris Johnson. There have even been some suggestions that people don't want Boris Johnson to leave. They think he stabbed him in the back, and it hasn't sit too well with people in terms of his loyalty. The second reason why he's trailing is because of the situation we're going through. Cost of living crisis, worse time to live in the UK in terms of economics in a generation. And this has in part been imposed by Rishi Sunak's taxation policy. So he's now trying to change that by saying he will cut the rate of income tax to its biggest amount in 30 years. Is that going to be enough for him to win over support? I doubt very much.
Yeah, well, talk about politics. Politicians will give you those promises you want to hear, to get what they want. But Juliana, what are we expecting for the week?
Well, it's a big week. I should mention, it would be rude for me not to mention the fact that the England women's team won the UEFA European Cup last night.
Yes, I saw that, Juliana. Congratulations.
England did invent the game. This is a big story. This is a big story here in the UK, and it does have financial implications because, of course, money and sport bring in a lot of money. So I mentioned that. But I think in terms of data and numbers, it's got to be Thursday, where the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee will gather at Fred Needle Street to decide whether or not they're going to be hiking interest rates. We're expecting a further hike. This would be the 10th consecutive hike in interest rates. It's a lot, but of course we know inflation is gathering momentum. It could reach 10% within the next couple of weeks. So to abate that, they will be lifting interest rates. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's the big one.
Yeah, Juliana, everyone is counting how many hikes we're doing now. Doesn't look like we're going to stop that anytime soon, but we'll watch and see. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you at 1:30 during Business Incorporated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's head to another market now, a cryptocurrency market with Laddie Williams. Hi, Laddie. You're on the other side this time around.
Yeah, I'm on the other side, Inni, and talking about hikes. Yeah, we're expecting more hikes, but the markets are reacting, positively from, last week when the Fed actually raised rates by about 75.
Because some people had expected it to get to 100, but because it was 75, and I think a lot of analysts had already priced that in.
Yeah, we priced that about 100 in. But now we're seeing that the market is actually looking good. We saw Bitcoin close about 24,000. Quite an impressive run, I'd say, for Bitcoin there. We see Fear Greed Index there is at fear this morning. It did get to about neutral over the weekend with all of that good news coming in. Market cap now is down about 1.68%. We're seeing a bit of a pullback in with volume too, $71.33 billion traded. Bitcoin dominance sits at 41.04%, and we see price of Bitcoin this morning, $23,237. It's had that run from that low we saw there, close to about 18,000. And we saw Bitcoin get about $24,000. Quite a run. It's down 0.41% this morning. A bit of pullback, with most of this market. We've seen that happen also with the U.S. futures markets, and we know how correlated Bitcoin is with those markets. Volume trade at $23.03 billion, and we see Ethereum there, 1,600, did get to about 1.7. It's down about 0.30% this morning, and volume traded $14.14 billion. Let's bring in Rume Ofi now, digital market analyst. Hello, Rume. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I know you're excited. It's a green market, and Bitcoin is looking pretty good. How do you see the performance last week, and Bitcoin getting to that 24,000 level?
Yeah, it's an opportunity for Bitcoin to prove itself. A lot of people are actually asking this question, and I know you have actually asked this question also on air. Is Bitcoin really an edge, or is Bitcoin really a store of value considering its volatility? And Bitcoin is proving that fact really clear. You see, everybody was expecting the U.S. Fed statement to actually make Bitcoin go down, or possibly the US GDP data to make it go down. But Bitcoin is saying, no, I am still a very good hedge. And you see the price move towards 24,000 plus. And though the strong liquidity is not here yet, even seeing how weekends usually are, concerning the fact that the other markets are not trading, but the market actually held that position even up to now. We've seen about 23,000. It only means that Bitcoin is going to prove itself. And obviously, going forward, you're going to see all of those show, because Bitcoin has to show itself holding very strong $1 trillion capitalization of the total crypto market. So this is also to show that, we're going to, irrespective of the Fed hike and the US GDP data, we have something that the world needs to pay attention to.
Yeah, and they are paying attention at this point, even though we're seeing all that volatility in the market. But remember, we're having that CBAN P2P conference. I know you're going to be speaking there. The theme is about CFI, DeFi, TradFi. What are we expecting from that?
Ladi, I must tell you that this is one of the best times to be alive, considering the fact that a lot is happening in this space, crypto, blockchain, and everything. And you're seeing all of the things happening in the world. And it's also for me to make bold to see that Nigeria is leading in this technology, not just leading in adoption of cryptocurrency, but also leading in a self-regulated organizations like CBAN, which is the Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria, which I'm very proud to be a member of. We're coming up with a program that's going to enlighten a whole lot of people how these things should be done. Since the inception of this association, since 2018 to now, it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt that there is a way this should be done, not a hostile approach, not a way to scare people away, but a way to go to the best practice. And this event is going to make it more public and private sector oriented, where people could come and understand that this industry is beyond just cryptocurrency, and it's just beyond cryptocurrency and just holding the certain coin, but also coming together to chart a course forward where people can have a safer and a more friendlier ecosystem where a lot of these innovations can thrive, and the country itself could make the best of it, because there's a lot of opportunity. And I believe that those in government want to see our economy take the best advantage of it for it to grow really speedily.
Yeah, and it's coming at a time where currencies have been, hammered globally with that strengthening US dollar. But it's a new week. Rumi, what are you expecting for Bitcoin this week?
Bitcoin this week, quite amazing. See that strength holding sway. It's actually moving really good. But what I'm looking at this week, I'm looking at the US payroll coming up report. It's going to be coming on Friday. But I believe before then, we're going to see some significant movement. Hopefully, I'm looking at between 28 when we leave 24K, looking at 28. I actually spoke the other time that the road to 30K is actually being constructed really quick, and we're going to see a lot of things happening. Considering the fact that OPEC meeting is still going to come, when the oil prices are actually down, you tend to see a lot of attention go to alternative finance like cryptocurrency. So this week for me, hopefully on a fair note between 28 is not a bad deal.
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting to see the market actually get back into greed zone. We've been in extreme fear for the longest time, this year. It'll be interesting to see all of that play out. Thank you so much, Rumi Ofi, digital market analyst. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ladi. Always a pleasure.
All right. So now let's head back to the market. We see BNB there. It's $285. It did have that run over the weekend with that rally we saw with Bitcoin, but it's down this morning 0.38%. And just eCash in the green this morning, talking about the top alts by market cap, is up 0.13%. And we see top 5 gainers list there. It's just Filecoin there, up 18.67%, $9.91. Still having that rally from the weekend. And Cadena there, $2.07. We see BitTorrent there, less than a cent. And we see iReeve, it's up about 4.41% at $15.40 per coin. And the top 5 losers there, we see those Bitcoin Gold there, one of the forks of Bitcoin there, that's in the red, down double digits, $29.63 per coin. Ethereum Classic had the run last week, but we're seeing a pullback, some profit taking on that one. Lido DAO there, $2.15, and Uniswap, the centralized exchange, $8.34. It's down 7.57%. So the market is not looking so bad, but we're seeing a pullback from the run we saw last week this morning.
Yeah, well, let's see if Ruben's prediction will come to
Yeah,
pass. Looking at
28K.
28,000.
Imagine we're looking at 28K
I
at
know
this point.
Michael Naji would not agree with that,
Yeah,
but I mean, we'll
Some still see pain ahead in most of these markets.
All right, Laddie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you at 1:30 during Business Incorporated. For now, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of this very first edition of Business Morning in the month of August. We have a long way to go. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great one. I'm Ini John Mekwa.